What's up, everybody? We're back again, and we're talking about monetizing the mod scene with another infamous Danny Silver. He's infamous. Here he is right here. So, Danny, enjoy. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat. And then after he's done with this presentation, I'll pop back in, and then we will answer your questions. So Q&A away.
Absolutely. So hi, everybody. Welcome to Monetize the Mod Scene, which, as I was working on this presentation, I realized I probably could have come up with a better title, but I'm going to stick with it anyway. So the purpose of this talk is to discuss user-generated content as a live service. This is actually one of the longest talks I've ever written, so I'm going to talk fast, but I also split this up into chapters. So part one, warm up. So who the heck am I? I'm Danny Silvers. I am CEO of Lantana Games. I'm a graduate of the Savannah College of Art and Design. I founded Lantana Games in 2009. Shortly after graduation, I've now been an indie developer for 11 going on 12 years. In a past life, I was also the co-founder of the Boston Festival of Indie Games at MIT. You can find the studio everywhere at Lantana Games on social media. Name it, we're on it. And last year, I actually launched 2 games. One with Lantana Games, Mondrian Plastic Reality, which I'll be talking a bit about in this talk. If you're into arcadey brick breakers with art heist time travels, go ahead and check that out. And the other is Gunhilder with Rat Dog Games. And if you're into sci-fi Viking roguelike first-person shooters, go check that out. So to start off, we'll get the awkwardness out of the way because everybody is talking about this word, the metaverse. What is the metaverse? So the metaverse was coined in Neil Stephenson's novel Snow Crash in 1992. It describes a virtual world where human avatars interact with each other and other software agents. It is defined as a successor to the internet, not the internet itself, but something bigger and better where everybody can come together and you don't know who's a human or who's a bot. Think VR chat. And nowadays it's being used to describe a wide array of products from games to music to tech, but all of which have some kind of user-generated content, influence, economies, and or experiences behind them. So my metaverse personally dates all the way back to Lode Runner: The Legend Returns. And this was the first game I ever used with a level editor. I remember specifically wanting to rush home from school to make new levels in Lode Runner every day. I was 7. And then a few years later, became obsessed with Jazz Creation Station in much the same way. I have a lot of fun stories about Jazz Jackrabbit 2, some of which you'll have to ask Cliff Bleszinski himself about because I refuse to tell them, but he'll later on, not that much later on though, got into the StarCraft level editor and then the Unreal Tournament Game of the Year edition editor. And that one actually became pretty handy in college where we did a lot of level design in UT 2004. But then this all culminated last year with the launch of Mondrian Plastic Reality. That included the first level editor I've ever created. So why do I love user-generated content so much, and why should you? Well, first of all, UGC tools give games a potentially endless life cycle. Normally, in what I refer to as tier 1 games, it's up to you to develop all the content for as long as you intend to keep the game alive, versus with UGC, your community will help keep the game alive. UGC tools can drastically reduce internal development time and simplify the live ops cycle. I know that on the first Mondrian game, Abstraction and Beauty, literally every level was coded in there via like coordinate systems, hard coded in. And then in the sequel, I built the level editor, the first iteration of the level editor over a weekend. And 3 days later, all the content from the first game had been remade. So yeah, tools speed up development. More social media sharing opportunities, not just for you, but also for your community and for you to be able to share what your community is building in your game. They're immensely helpful with bug testing. Your community will break everything for you, and it's just going to help you make a stronger product in the end. And finally, there's a lot of untapped monetization potential. Some things have been tried, and some models have been more successful than others, and we're going to go over all of them today. But just a few quick notes about what this talk is and isn't. This is not a talk on how to make a level editor or a mod kit. Learn some programming and learn save load cycles. That's all I can recommend right now. Otherwise, go look up some YouTube tutorials. This is not about definitive business solutions for making money off of user-generated content. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to this. There are some do's and some don'ts, but that's about it. And this really is not a talk about NFT or other crypto blockchain hype. I'm not too familiar with that, and also it's not what we're really focusing on today. I'm going to touch on it a little bit at the end. But what this talk is a look at the various tiers of UGC implementation. This is about methods to foster a creative community, and adjustments to the traditional live service business model that you can make to help make your game more UGC friendly. Part 2. So now I'm going to talk about these tiers of games. So tier 1, static games. This is the traditional. This is the WYSIWYG. The what you see is what you get. This is fully crafted by the developer to make the same experience for all players. This is very standard for live service games right now. You control the experience, the schedule, and the economy. I'm going to talk a little bit about Rarity in this talk, and that mainly refers to the ways players can unlock in-game goods or content. So in a tier 1 game, Rarity is achieved with unlocks or in-game currency, fiat money, as in actually paying real money, or network integrations and API backend trickery, like linking up your Facebook account or getting a Twitch drop. Tier 1 games do not preclude mods from existing, but these mods tend to be very unofficial and can even break terms of service. Think like hackers in GTA. Next up is modular games. Now, so modular games are very interesting, and this is where I have the most experience. So essentially, the game is the game, but the overall experience is crafted by the players. So for instance, Mario Maker is very much Super Mario. Portal 2 test chambers are Portal 2. So the game still has a specific core experience, but the content is built around that experience. These games tend to include integrated or external or even third-party tool sets to create custom levels, game modes, mods, player skins, items, really whatever you want your users to be able to make. Content is usually shared either through a proprietary server integration or modding platforms like Steam Workshop, Mod.io, Nexus Mods. Recently, The Overwolf is a company that raised a lot of money to help distribute UGC. And even the Epic Game Store, Epic getting back to what they've traditionally been known for, mod support, which is great. UGC instantly turns any game into a live service, but it does require a little bit of adjustment. And at tier 2, monetization needs to support the creators more than the individual creations. And I'll touch on that more later. Tier 3, this is where things can get a little interesting and the lines can start to blur a little bit. So I call them construction kits. That name is very old school, and it's been getting kicked around a little bit in certain kinds of studios lately. So I'm bringing it back. I'm making it official. These are games that are designed to nearly be game engines, but they are limited a little bit more in terms of the technology that is available to the user. There's generally no specific experience short of a tutorial or a sample project. So, for instance, as I mentioned in Super Mario Maker, at its core, it's Mario. What is Dreams at its core? It makes games. There is no central game to Dreams. There is no central game to core. There's a little bit more of a central game to like Gary's mod, but even then, not so much. Players create projects in any genre using assets supplied by the developer or built in kit, with the tools that you've created for your users. The ecosystem is controlled by the developer. Generally, monetization favors you as the developer, but there are still a lot of very generous monetization options that can help the creators out as well. The live service on your end is then going to be more focused on education and certain kinds of opportunities. And your users at this tier are the ones who are going to be adopting the more traditional live service lifecycle. And then finally, all the way at the top is the game engines themselves. Your Unities, your Unreals, Godots, Click Team Fusion, Game Maker, you name it. These are, the actual software packages used to make games. So you can choose your own tier of modularity, define your own business model, distribute on any platform that it's compatible with, code in whatever language the engine supports. Generally, you have to create assets outside the engine rather than inside the software itself. And the development costs can be anywhere from a free game jam weekend with a bunch of pizza to, several $1 million. So just summing that all up again, static games at tier 1, the experience is crafted by the designer, in-game economy and or content ecosystem means that you basically control every penny that comes in and out. Easy to monetize in any form, and it's made for all kinds of gamers from kids through adults. Tier 2, modular games. The designer creates the rules and the player creates the world. User-generated content ecosystem means that players are always making new stuff, and you as the developer still have control over that ecosystem, but they are filling it with stuff rather than you. Open monetization opportunity for creators means that the money that comes in is going to be more focused on the creators rather than the creations. And it's made for risk-taking gamers who, want to try out new stuff and don't really have any expectations of what they're going to find, but they know they want to try all sorts of wacky, crazy stuff that comes their way. Construction kits, the experience is pretty much crafted from the bottom up by the players. There's a proprietary ecosystem that I'm going to go into more as this talk goes on, but basically the ecosystems at this level are a combination of not just the games that are getting made in this software, but also the assets that are going into it, the graphics, the music, everything. It's a very protective monetization system. So how your creators get supported is more up to the creators than up to you. And there are systems you can put in place to help them along that path. And essentially, these kits are made for intro-level game devs, but also tend to be used for professional game devs who want to keep making games, but don't want to put in the effort of programming after coming home from their day job. And then finally, all the way up at the top is game engines. All right, so your creative community, this is the heart and soul of any user-generated content-based game. First of all, who are your creators? Your creators are higher level players. They're the ones building your metaverse in this, in this software that you've created. And honestly, they are closer to being contractors than players. And so the thing to keep in mind about the creators is they're actually going to be building micro ecosystems within your macro. And what I mean by that is, especially at tier 3, when they create a game in your software, they're going to be building up their own community just for that game. The members of their community are very likely going to be members of your upper community, the macro. But then within that, there's going to be this subsection of players that are just focused on this one creator's game. And so you're going to get like disparate groups with different kinds of interests in different kinds of content that are being built. And so honestly, they're then kind of running their own contracting service in a way. And you need to think of creators more along those lines than along the lines of just a generic player, because they are building things, they are contributing, they are helping your ecosystem grow beyond anything you could imagine. And honestly, they should be rewarded for their efforts. The thing to keep in mind about creation, though, is it is absolutely not an exclusive club. Everyone is welcome to play or create. And your creative community is going to put in the heavy lifting of making sure that that holds true. So, rewarding your creators. How can you do that? Well, first and foremost, if your focus is tools, your audience is creators. Once you even put a level editor into your game, you need to start thinking more like Adobe and less like a regular game developer. If you reward your creators in turn are going to reward players, either just with good experiences or with ways of getting in on your monetization system that you've established. The more someone creates, the bigger the rewards. So honestly, this is kind of a quantity game. In general, you're better off with creators who make a bunch of pretty good things rather than one creator who makes a great thing and then goes away. Because that great thing is eventually going to sink and new content is going to be surfaced up above whatever that person created. So you want people who can stick around for the long haul. And the big kicker for rewarding your creators, obviously, is contests. Whether you can offer real money or digital currency or merchandise or beta access or even like one-on-one education, or if you've put together like a masterclass series of videos. These are the different kinds of ways that you can reward your topmost creators, the ones who are contributing the best content most often, bringing new players in, bringing new creators in, and really helping people out. Micro ecosystems. Again, this mostly goes for tier 3 stuff. This is creators building smaller economies, shops, or microtransactions in their creations using pre-existing monetary systems. So for instance, if you have a microtransaction like Robux, giving players and creators the ability to access Robux in any game in that ecosystem means that then the creators can go off and create their own ecosystems, their own in-game stores within their game, but that still uses your microtransaction, your digital currency. And so then those all tie together. Yeah, if you have a digital currency, let creators use it. There's no need to hide that behind some kind of wall that they can't access. If you're making a tier 3 construction kit, give creators access to everything and let them tie that digital currency to their ecosystem items. And this includes not just the items in their game, but if they're making assets, those as well. And honestly, assets are assets. There will be creators who worry that like they downloaded something and they've made that a very rare item in their game, but it is a very common item in another game. That's not your problem, and they shouldn't worry about it either. Each game is its own thing, but they're all tied together. Education, teaching your players how to use your tools, whether it's tier 1, tier 1, yeah, that's its own thing. Those are just games. But tier 2 through 4, you need to put some effort into making some tutorial videos or setting up master classes or boot camps, because people want to know how to use your stuff. So teach them. Wikis are also good, live streams, all those kinds of things. If your tools are deep enough, paid master classes are huge. Like, you can absolutely use those as part of your business plan. Ideally, you would have some high-level features included in there, like Lewis scripting or a modeling suite. Something that really takes it up closer to engine territory than game territory. But in general, don't keep anything about your tools a secret or a surprise. Unlocks as rewards for playing and creating are still good. So think like, again, Mario Maker, I keep using that as an example, how some items are locked out to begin with. And then the more you play, the more players can get access to later items, stronger enemies, etc., as they go through. That's fine, but don't hide anything from them. Let them know, hey, this is what's coming up as you make and play more stuff. Yep. So I mentioned boot camps. What is a boot camp? Boot camp is your own little seed accelerator. This is where you go and invite young developers to your team to build stuff in your tool set. Daily workshops, direct training, group projects simulating professional work. You basically build a mini studio based around your editor. This can be done real or digital. We're all working digitally now, so you can use the same kind of digital office space that you've got going on, whether it's just on Discord or something a little fancier. These programs usually run about a month long. No reason you couldn't do them as a whole summer camp. Definitely ramp up the challenge and requirements over time. Start them off easy, give them some education, and then once they're off to the races, you can essentially present them with tougher and tougher challenges as you go on, so they can learn the tool set deeper and deeper. In the end, the work is going to be owned by you. But still allow the campers to add the work to their resume and portfolios. Because honestly, the experience they get at the end of this, they'll be able to go home and make something brand new and even better. But for you as a company, it's going to be a way for you to say, hey, look at all this content we generated. Look at how good we are at training people to use our software. Look at the kinds of things that can be made in it. This is a great opportunity for high schoolers to go hands-on with dev tools and get entry-level dev experience. And especially now with schools all going online and still charging $100,000, you can charge kids a whole lot less, and they'll get so much more out of a program like this. So yeah, when it comes to your creative community, do not babysit them. Creators will inevitably create micro communities, and you can't be everywhere at once. The thing to keep in mind about this is that creation itself is an investment, and investment beats out toxicity every single time. What tends to happen in a lot of these programs, a lot of these games, is users from other communities will come in and be like, "Oh, it's not as good," you know, like I won't name names, but you know, they'll come in and be like, "Oh, it's not as good. You're all dumb for using this. You should be using blah blah blah." And the creators in your community will be like, "Hey, just give it a chance." And you as the developer can be like, "Hey, you know, it's free, and here's some education resources to get you started." And they'll be like, "Oh, I don't believe you." And then they'll go check it out, and they'll come back and be like, "Wow, that's actually really cool." So being able to you know, let your players invest their time into the tools means that they will essentially become spokespeople for your tools. They'll become evangelists. And then with that power behind them, they will be able to instantly squash that kind of naysayer toxicity that, you know, could come your way. But of course, if you give them tools, they'll make dicks. So what? Honestly, dumb content is going to happen. It's not your job to promote it. Your job is to surface better creations rather than constantly hunting bad actors. Discoverability is incredibly important. And even, unfortunately, software like Dreams forgot this lesson at the start. They have improved since then, but you know, when they started off, they didn't have a good way for anybody to discover the freshest content every single day. So you want to make sure that there are ways that players coming in can find the newest, best content, and that worst content is going to sink. So the level of control that you take over your content ecosystem is, again, based on your tier. So at tier 2, control is a constant chase, and you will always be behind. I like to reference Lego Universe here, how because of the Lego brand being what it is, they needed to make sure that the game remained family friendly no matter what. The problem there is they spent more time chasing and erasing dicks off of the platform than developing the game. And they invested so much time and money into technology to automatically detect dicks that they basically had to shut down over it. And you know, it's a shame. At tier 3, you have a locked ecosystem. So depending on the amount of control you have, you can manually review every single game that goes up. Or maybe you only want to manually review the games that are going to charge money. Or maybe, you know, you start every game off at the bottom, and then it's essentially up to the creators to promote their stuff and get the community to surface their creations. And then at tier 4, it's literally censorship. If Adobe doesn't do it, neither can you. Or honestly, if a piece of paper doesn't do it, neither can you. You made a full-on creation suite and you reap what you sow, essentially. So my advice here is essentially invest in your moderation wisely. AI can help, but all censorship is a rock in a stream. Creators are the water, and they will find a way around it every single time. Part 4. Ecosystems and economies. Now comes the actual money. So the live ops cycle. Some of you may be familiar with it. Some of you may not. Live ops implies a perpetually updated and living experience for players. So there's 4 phases to the live ops cycle. There's the content phase. This is the meat of the game. This is where you're doing your actual development, your level, story, quests, items, etc. Then the update goes live, and that's the operate phase. This is the normal gameplay time, plus internal development, testing, bug fixing, keeping an eye on what the community is doing, heat maps, anything you need to do there. Events. This is where game development starts to get a little fun. This is where you get to come up with weekly or monthly functions that invite players to participate with bonus rewards, new features, or content. This is what really makes a game live. And you can really incentivize players to come on in and get bonus rewards and check out new content, and maybe they even pick up the game for the first time in a month or a year. It's a great way of getting players to return, and it's a great way of finding new players. And then finally building community. There's even further rewards here. Maybe you offer something to players for integrating their social media accounts, or tying their Twitch account to it, or sharing a Discord link, or whatever it is. There's different ways you can reward them in this. In the end, this is essentially the marketing phase. I recommend collaborations and cross promotions personally. I want to see more of developers working together. And we're seeing a lot of that at the tier 3 level even. Events. More on events. Host in-game events to keep players engaged. And again, event types depend on tier. So tier 1, usually they're themed around a holiday or an in-game update, new items coming out, kind of stuff. And usually there's like a double XP bonus to go along with it, or something along those lines, or like some free microtransaction points when you log in. Tier 2, same as the above, but in general, the events must also include some new tools for user-generated content. And honestly, you can generally skip the holiday themes and such. So like Minecraft, for instance, only comes out with one update a year, but the updates they come out with are gigantic and flip the entire game on its head in some crazy ways. And every little piece of content they come out with has an effect on the adventure mode as well as the creative mode. And they come out with a lot of blocks every single update. So their updates tend to be more tied toward the creative aspects is what I'm getting at. And then tier 3 is creator focused events. These are a little bit special in comparison. These are also themed around holidays or other milestones, but they encourage user-generated content literally by offering contracts and contests. So you would, say, for instance, put up a job board. And then on this job board, you would, say, post a theme of the kinds of games that you're looking for the community to make. Maybe you put up, some actual money for creators to go out and make games around the theme of the event. And then they form teams and go out and make the content. And then during this time, you can offer new or limited time tools for creators to use during events. Maybe you have like say it's Christmas time, and so you're offering up Christmas trees or lights during this time that won't be available for the rest of the year. So you can create, again, that whole rarity aspect, limited time items that your creators can use in their games. Adjusting the Zeitgeist. So this is where we finally get to the heart of the topic, paid mods. Now, paid mods, for anybody unfamiliar with it, this is a bit of a controversy a few years ago when Bethesda opened up a section of Steam Workshop where players could pay for mods the community had created. Everything was premium and very overpriced, and the response was extremely negative. But since then, models have been put in place to make sure that that kind of fiasco doesn't happen again. And that's, what I'm going to go into basically right now. So user-generated content at Tier 2 has traditionally been free. Anything you upload is free to upload. Anything you download is free to download. Okay, but it's still art, it's still work. How do we make sure people can get paid for it? Most creators want to release their content for free. So my recommendation is open monetization, donations, subscriptions, small shares of big payments, i.e., tiny parts of community loot crates. Please, for the love of God, avoid premium and paid mods. Avoid anything that has to do with paying directly for the content. The goal here is to support the creator in order to support the individual creations. At Tier 3, it's a little more interesting because if you're running a game like Roblox or Core, then you've got a digital currency. And the creators then determine their own monetization strategy around the digital currency that you're offering. So they can go premium, they can go microtransactions, they can sell cosmetics, and even the Tier 2 options that are more like Patreon-esque in nature are still available. Interconnected games is kind of a new concept that's coming around now, thanks to Tier 3. And these are items that players buy in one user-generated content or in the asset shop that can be used in others. This encourages creators to communicate and connect their games together. So like maybe they buy it in one game and then they get it in another, or maybe they win it in one game and then they get it in another. So there's a bunch of ways you can connect your ecosystems together. You can share cosmetics because at Tier 3, especially, players love to keep their avatar with them into any game they go play. Shared microtransactions. If you buy something in one, you get it in another. Unlocks dependent on owning other UGC. So, if you bought a game, then all of a sudden you're rewarded with an item in another game. And coordinated events. So, obviously tying events around a holiday, that's pretty obvious. But if there's something a little less obvious that one game is doing some kind of party, maybe another game gets in on that party as well. So the big question, obviously, is as a developer, what's your share of what you're going to be taking in? Tier 2, it really depends on the business model. For single content, creators should keep the majority. Anywhere north of 50% is fine. Obviously, as the dev, you can keep some share to help cover costs, but it's not going to be as much as Tier 3. Now, keep in mind that you can only control payments at official portals, like ones that you can really keep an eye on, like Steam Workshop. If mods are being distributed at a site like Nexus Mods, you're not going to get any money there. And then at Tier 3, honestly, you're looking at a 50-50 split at best. But with Roblox, for instance, the dev share is more like 25%. And they give you a little sliver more if you have a very successful game. And they give you that sliver in the form of digital currency, which then encourages you to go out and check out other games in the ecosystem. Otherwise, the remaining 75% is, Roblox making money for the sake of money, reinvesting in their platform, like code and growth, platform hosting and support, making sure the servers stay online. They are a publicly traded company now, and app store fees because, Lord knows keeping games online is not cheap. So live ops versus UGC. I'm I'm not going to go into everything in this table. Go ahead and read it. But essentially, in the live ops format, developers need to do everything, and the community basically just plays. If you're lucky, they'll do videos and live streams and photo mode shares, but that's about it. If you do a UGC based game, then you're still responsible for a lot, but the community is mostly responsible for the growth. When you blend the two together, you still need to focus on story and new features and tools. But everything you introduce is going to grow over time thanks to the community. You're still responsible for upkeep, but the community is then responsible for upkeeping that upkeep in a really weird way. So you would then offer game updates, bonus rewards, themed contests, and educational opportunities, and the community then runs their own events around their own content. Building community, when you are doing UGC live ops, your goal is to appeal to creators, run boot camps, and share any piece of content that the community comes out with that fits your own internal guidelines for sharing. And then the community is going to be running their own micro communities, branching off from the main thing. And most of the time, you're not even going to be there. They're going to be left to their own devices. The game can still be any model. It can be free to play. It can be premium, however you want to run it. But at tier 3, you're going to be essentially running a proprietary marketplace, and you will be taking a percentage. Try to keep that percentage under or equal to 50%. And then the community is going to be pulling in any kind. They're going to be pulling in money from any kind of model they want at tier 3. And ideally a donation subscription kind of model at tier 2. Remember that UGC does not preclude classic live ops features, but they still need to be somewhat separate. That's still going to be handled a lot of times by the community. The way that I like to think about it is that the game kind of becomes a digital farmer's market. It's up to the developer to build the space, book the space, have all those logistics ready to go. But then, the farmers come in and they sell all their own individual goods at your market. So finally, just a few stray thoughts that I had while making this. So the problem with Rarity is content and that is created and distributed by players is inherently common, especially at tier 2, whether free or paid. Rare items are highly sought after by players, especially if they cannot be bought. So for instance, in Sea of Thieves, I have the obsidian cannons. I don't know where I got them. I don't know when I got them. I think I got them from watching The Longest Johns, but I can't guarantee it. But I have been held up by other players to give them my obsidian cannons. And I'm like, that's not a thing. And they try to kill me and they end up dead. Another story for another time. But services like Twitch Drops can be used to increase rarity, so you can space out when those items become available to players, and even roll a die to see who watching the stream will get those items and such. Crypto functionality like NFTs can add rarity to otherwise common items to make them one of a kind or extremely rare. And my recommendation is to essentially balance rarity with usefulness. Endgame content isn't so special when players can make it. It's a thing to always keep in mind there. And also don't forget that you don't want to lock tools out for players. So you're always going to be playing a little bit of cat and mouse with what do I want players to be able to build versus how far in the game do I want players to find these tools and the other in-game items and such. But yes, everyone's talking about NFTs. So what about the NFTs? An NFT is a non-fungible token. It's essentially, think about it like as a digital signature. It's tied to the blockchain. You can tie it to like an image or a movie or a song. And essentially, it can be a way to create rarity or even one of a kindness for digital files. Normally, you can copy paste something. You can't quite copy paste an NFT. NFTs can absolutely be used for user generated content. There's a bunch of games that are using them now. But for the most part, NFTs are being used as a digital currency microtransaction system rather than as a way to support creative communities. I think it's only a matter of time before NFTs and UGCs are really integrated together in every game with editors. I don't think it's a matter of if, it's more of a matter of when and how they can be used for supporting creators. So yeah, finally, to sum it up, figure out what tier your software falls into, monetize it correctly. Tier 2 should focus on donations and community support the creator. Tier 3 should let creators choose their own monetization models, support the creation. Don't babysit, don't censor, let communities do the policing and find the ways to float the best content to the top. And then create learning and earning opportunities. Make tutorial videos, make wikis, set up boot camps, run contests, open a job board, spotlight the best content. And that's it. I'm just going to leave this up during Q&A. This is ways that you can support Lantana Games. Mondrian Plastic Reality is available on Steam for Windows. We have a bunch of new merch up today that previews some of the upcoming design features that are coming into the game in a couple weeks. Looking into doing NFTs. I don't know if it's going to be NFT integrated or something just more along the lines of like art sales that have been going on with NFTs lately. But then, of course, the free stuff, join our Discord community, follow us on Instagram. There's also a @Mondrian Makers account on Instagram that showcases user-generated content. And, everywhere else, the regulars @Lantana Games.
And don't babysit them.
Don't babysit.
That's too much work. And then it just blows up in your face anyways, right? All right. So let's thank Danny. That was perfect, man. That was perfect. All right. Let's see here. Would another benefit of UGC be finding potential employees who are already familiar with your product and or various skills?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's an age-old thing with the game industry, is to hire directly out of your mod scene
community.
and out of the mod community. Yeah. And especially like as a developer myself, if somebody were to show me a portfolio made entirely of Mondrian Maker levels, I would, say, I don't have any money and I'm going to pay you. Mm-hmm. Like I would just feel so damn honored. Somebody to show up, be like, I want to work on your game. Here's what I've made in your game. And I'd be like, oh, so they know what they're getting into. They know how to play the game already. They know how to use the game, which means they'd be able to jump into the code and start fixing and building in no time. So yeah, they're the ones you really want to look for.
Okay, here's a question from Jay, and you guys pop some questions in the chat. We've got a little bit more time for Danny. What tier would Minecraft be? The base game is about creation itself, but there is a massive community of modders that create a wide variety of mods.
So it's funny. I gave a lot of thought to this, and I decided Minecraft wants to be tier 3, but ultimately it's tier 2. No matter what mod you play in Minecraft, it is ultimately hampered by the code on the back end, and it is still Minecraft. Like I've played, first person shooter mods in there, and it feels awful. It still feels like Minecraft.
Mm. Are you saying Minecraft's awful? What's that?
I'm saying Minecraft pretending to be Quake is awful. Mm-hmm. Minecraft itself is beautiful. and I love it to death. But Minecraft, when it really tries to be any game other than Minecraft, and like, I don't know, maybe some like slight puzzly things, but if it strays too far away from being what the core of the experience is, it falls apart.
Right. So you kind of touched this. Jessica Livingstone says, what would a typical monetization structure model look like if you are the mod creator?
At that point, it is up to you. I assume you're talking about like tier 3 with like Dreams and Core and Roblox. So it's really up to you. The way these services handle it is you can, sell it for a set price. You can make it free to play and open your own item shop in the game. You can even make it donation based or subscription based. They don't control that. Media Molecule, Manticore, Roblox, they don't control how you monetize your mods. If you're talking about tier 2, you can unofficially monetize it at sites like Nexus Mods and such. But ultimately, the original game developer, like if you want to go through the official channels like Steam Workshop, then it's really more up to the original game developer to create a monetization structure that's going to be able to support you appropriately.
So Jessica also says, so basically rewarding the players causes a ripple effect of being rewarded yourself if you are the mod creator.
Exactly. And then not only that, but then you're also supporting the developer up at the top because you're using their digital currency in your game. So the players still have to buy that digital currency, but then they can spend that digital currency in your game, and then you get that. And some platforms, I think, allow you to convert it back into real money. And then other platforms, I think just, you get paid in Robux, essentially.
Mm-hmm. I actually, a long time ago, I was I was taking this course, and somebody came in there and they're like, they modeled stuff in Second Life and then sold it. They had a store, right? And their whole family, that was their whole business, or their whole legit business. They had like their kids. It was a guy and his wife, and then they had like their cousins, and they all like worked together in this office, and that's all they did was model furniture for Second Life and sell it in the game.
There's an odd amount of money to be made in asset creation, and that same model then moved over into like the asset store for Unity and Unreal and such.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's from a G Swanee. I'd rather cover up my face than yours. I can just look over it like, does a free digital currency have a place in UGC economies? Roblox used to have ticks or tickets, if you're familiar, but they've since removed them. I can't think of other sandboxes that have free currency.
Maybe, but I would think that the reason that got removed is because creators want to create their own free currencies in their own games, and like maybe share those same currencies with other games. But if you're talking just like a regular in-game point system, I think most developers, whether they're hobbyist or professional or anywhere in between, want to create their own point system. And so having one that's like has a universal name to it and such, could like defeat the aesthetic essentially of the creation. And so I think a lot of developers would be like, I'd really prefer to just make my own points system.
All right. Well, I just lost something, fell and unplugged one of my monitors and knocked my computer out.
Sounds like a cat.
Something. No, it wasn't. We don't have cats. But anyways, Danny, we got to hit out of here. And Jay needs me, but my other monitor is not working, so I can't see the screen. But if you guys want to go over to the Discord, Danny's going to be hanging out over there at discord.pg/indie game business. Thank you so much for another. I mean, we've done multiple of these together for another amazing presentation, and you timed it perfect. That was good.
I was really worried about that. Like I said, this is the longest talk I've ever written, so I was nervous, but
it was good. It was good. All right. Take it easy, and we'll see you. There's one more talk today, everybody, so hang out.
Bye, y'all.